Civil Engineering and Conserving National Parks by Andre Izadi.
And Matt Jacobs. National parks are one of nature's greatest gifts to the world. Not only do they dazzle the eye, but they illuminate the mind by making us consider our place in this vast universe.
As time passed on, more and more people wanted to see these remarkable landscapes, and a problem emerged. Should national parks be kept the same to ensure the conservation of the land, or should structures be built to handle the load of tourists and visitors wishing to see the park? In the beginning, structures that were built to showcase the remarkable beauty of national parks destroyed the land and ecosystems within these parks, which ended up doing more bad than good. So then the question was posed, why can't a structure be built that can show off the beauty of a national park and also not take away from the conservation of the land and allow generations of the future to enjoy the park?
A prime example of a structure that embodies this idea is the New River Gorge Bridge located inside New River Gorge National Park and Reserve in Fayetteville, West Virginia. New River Gorge National Park contains one of the oldest rivers on Earth, the New River, which cuts through thousands of acres of scenic canyons, and forests. The New River Gorge Bridge is a marvelous feat of civil engineering that benefits not only visitors wishing to see the park, but also the park itself.
In this mini documentary, we'll be exploring the thin line between public enjoyment and conservation for the future by examining the New River Gorge National Park and its famous bridge. But before we do that, we must understand how this issue came to be.
Looking back in the past, national parks were founded on the basis of preservation. Former President Theodore Roosevelt is known for his love of the outdoors. Roosevelt saw that if people built structures on every inch of land within the United States, that the natural beauty and ecosystems of various lands throughout the United States would be ruined. He figured that there had to be a way for the United States to be able to control what happened in these areas of beauty within the nation.
As seen in Elise Cox's TED Ed video entitled Who Owns the Wilderness, it is clear that Roosevelt, although he did not create the National Park Service, was a huge inspiration on the creation of the organization. 7 years after Roosevelt was out of office, on August 25th, 1916, President Woodrow Wilson signed the act creating the National Park Service.
This act allowed for there to be an official part of the government that was assigned to preserving land. This meant that the government could declare areas where people were not able to touch land, meaning there would be no structures built on said land.
This idea of conservation in national parks was a great idea. However, they also became great tourist destinations. This meant that there was a lot of foot traffic, and these national parks did not provide people with adequate accommodations for their visit. This led to the creation of the first ever building in a national park, the Queen Laundry's Bathhouse.
As you can see, the bathhouse was never finished. The bathhouse is a building designed by Yellowstone National Park Superintendent Phyllis Norris, who thought that it was a good idea to create a bathhouse for public use.
Although the structure was never finished, it goes to show that there was a need for people buildings within national parks because these parks had started to become such a big tourist destination.
This can lead back into the problem of man-made structures getting in the way of ecosystems. While trying to accommodate people and their needs, the National Park Service is faced with the tough task of trying to make sure that the ecosystem and the plant and the animals involved in it are not affected.
Although human enjoyment is a major focal point of national parks, at the end of the day, the most important piece is the park itself and the ecosystem within it. Therefore, when we decide to make structures within parks, we have to make sure we are balancing between human consumption and environmental disruption.
This means that something like a hotel on a national park's land might sound like a good idea, as it allows people to have a good, close place to stay. However, this is not such a good idea because it will disrupt the natural ecosystem within the park by increasing foot traffic, as a large building housing many people will disrupt the way that animals in that area live.
Moving back towards the present, we are now going to talk about the national park we chose for our presentation, the New River Gorge. Our focus will be on the main bridge that spans the gorge.
The New River Gorge Bridge is an engineering masterpiece that was designed by civil engineers like me. The New River Gorge Bridge is a deck arch bridge which works by transferring the weight of the bridge and its loads horizontally into the anchored abutments on both sides.
This bridge was built in June of 1974 and it was designed for easier transportation for people who came to view the park. Before the bridge was created, visitors that wanted to cross the gorge had to walk down and back up, a trip that took about 40 minutes. The deck arch bridge was designed to make it easier for tourists to come and travel through the park.
We're looking at this picture because the bridge was designed to fit in seamlessly with the existing features of the national park, as the bridge allows for tourists to travel through the park without being in the main environment of the gorge, thus letting animals and the ecosystem remain practically undisturbed.
With that being said, the bridge also allows for cars to travel through the area safely and efficiently, as without the bridge, cars would have to take detours that would take much more time. Not to mention, the bridge limits the amount of foot traffic going through the park, which is also better for the ecosystem.
The bridge allows for the public to use the park now, while not harming the park in the future.
This bridge is a great example of how structures in national parks need to walk a fine line between conservation for the future and allowing the public to enjoy them. And when this is done right, these structures are a benefit for the present and future.
The New River Gorge Bridge is a prominent example of how civil engineering can be used to provide enjoyment to national park goers while also addressing and solving the issue of land conservation. However, just because something is good does not mean that it can't be improved. In this case, we mean, why can't there be a more significant bridge that can help achieve both public enjoyment and conservation?
As explained by Elise Cox in her TED Ed video, tourists visiting national parks are responsible for changing the ecosystem of the parks without even knowing it. As hundreds and hundreds of visitors walk the allotted paths each day, they cause pollution, erosion, and damage to the sensitive ecosystems without even knowing it. This problem is referred to as foot traffic. As the popularity of the park grows, more and more people want to come and see them. And the more people that come, the more likely the national park is to sustain some sort of damage. To solve this growing problem, we would like to propose a possible solution.
The idea we would like to introduce is to build another bridge of the same magnitude. Of course, this bridge would also be perfectly integrated into the ecosystem of the New River Gorge National Park, just like its famous counterpart. But the plan is for this bridge to decrease foot traffic in other areas of the park. By implementing this plan, the more popular areas of the park, which are harmed by frequently visits from tourists, will, for a lack of a better term, be given a break. The ecosystem in these areas will be allowed to rebuild because the foot traffic of the park will have evened out.
The idea is to implement this similar deck arch bridge around the middle point of the park between Ephraim Creek and Fire Creek, near the Surprise Rapids. We chose this area of the park because there is not a lot of foot traffic due to the fact that there are no trails or camping grounds near. And besides rafting through the Surprise Rapids, there's not a lot of people who come to see this corner of the New River Gorge. By building another perfectly integrated bridge, along with a hiking trail, we can expect to see an increased amount of visitors in this previously empty corner of the park, and a decrease in foot traffic throughout the entirety of the national park and reserve.
The final point that we would like to leave you with is, with little knowledge of civil engineering and a passion to conserve the environment and its ecosystems, if done right, man-made structures in the national parks can allow for public enjoyment as well as conservation of the land.
Thank you.